Hi there, everyone, and welcome to On the Safe Side, a monthly podcast hosted by the editors of Safety and Health magazine, the official magazine of the National Safety Council. My name is Barry Botino, and I'm an associate editor at Safety and Health. With me are my trusty sidekicks and fellow associate editors, Alan Ferguson and Kevin Drewley. Hello, guys.
Hey there, Barry.
Hi, Barry.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us for this April 2025 episode, which is number 62 in our history. This month's episode is sponsored by Miller Fall Protection. Many of our listeners have had a unique journey into the safety profession, and we'd like to hear all about it for the My Story feature in the magazine. Submit a personal story or encourage a safety colleague to do so by emailing us at safehealth@nsc.org. In this month's episode, we'll examine some highlights from the April issue of Safety and Health magazine. Carl Heinlein, the senior safety consultant with American Contractors Insurance Group, will join us for the 5 Questions With segment to discuss fatigue in construction. And we'll share some of the most impactful stories we've put together for Safety and Health in the In Case You Missed It segment. Is everybody ready? Away we go.
In the April issue of Safety and Health, Barry looks at one of the most dangerous time periods on the job, the first 90 days. More than 250,000 workers annually have experienced an incident during that initial stretch in recent years. Barry details the process of keeping new workers safe and the role of a safety pro, among other topics. This month's issue of Safety and Health also provides a brief overview of the National Safety Council's 2025 Spring Safety Conference and Expo, set for April 22nd to the 25th in Charlotte, North Carolina. Among the highlights are the opening keynote from March podcast guest Jason Coons. His presentation is titled 7 Habits of Highly Effective Safety and Health Professionals. There's also a list of intriguing learning lab sessions and information on the Human and Organizational Performance Summit, which will be held in conjunction with the Spring Safety Conference. Visit ssce.nsc.org for more details about the event. Finally, Safety and Health unveils the results of its first State of Safety survey. Safety pros have answered questions about their work, employers, and other topics to provide a detailed look at today's profession. And there's plenty more in this issue of Safety and Health, which will arrive in your mailbox, or you can read it online at safetyandhealthmagazine.com.
When you're working at height, there's no room for compromise. That's why construction professionals trust Miller Fall Protection, an industry leader in safety, innovation, and reliability. From full-body harnesses to self-retracting lifelines, Miller provides solutions to help keep you safe, secure, and productive. At the end of the day, safety isn't just a requirement. It's the foundation of everything you build. Miller Fall Protection, protecting workers at height for over 80 years.
Fatigue on the job can make workers less productive and, more importantly, less safe. In construction, feelings of exhaustion, being weary, and dealing with a lack of sleep can impact the safety of workers along with everyone around them on a job site. To talk about fatigue in construction, joining us for our 5 Questions With segment is Carl Heinlein, who has spent more than 2 decades with the American Contractors Insurance Group as the organization's senior safety consultant. Carl, we thank you so much for joining us on the Safe Side this month.
Well, great to be here today, and really appreciate the focus on a topic that is often overlooked by many organizations.
Well, Carl, we want to start with you with kind of a broad question. How does fatigue impact workers in construction, and can you tell us what are some of the consequences of that?
Oh my, well, you figure construction in many cases, people are driving to work, and in some cases they may be long distances, or they may be in city traffic where, that may take a lot of time. So the day starts before they even get into the project, and then they're working on the project. In many cases, it's very physical labor that is certainly helps with the fatigue as well. So not only mental fatigue, but physical fatigue. And it can lead to a number of things, certainly injuries, potentially violence on the workplace, irritability, eating related issues, and then certainly it may impact your ability to drive safely on the way home, being tired, and then a number of things that can happen at home as well. I mean, without rest and being fatigued can create irritation and things of that nature at home with your families and friends as well. So it's a topic that I'm glad to see that is being addressed and talked about.
Carl, are there any signs of fatigue that safety and health professionals should be aware of among their workers?
Certainly there's a couple. First of all, how people are communicating with folks back and forth, how folks are reacting on the job to their typical activities. May they be creating or having more errors, or coworkers around them talking about their focus on processes and procedures. And these can turn into not only production related issues, quality related issues, but certainly safety related issues. So really knowing your teammates and kind of seeing what's going on there is one of the first steps of taking a look, because a lot of people have very active lives outside of work, and fatigue. You can have as much coffee and as many energy drinks as possible, but typically that's a short term solution with consequences down the road for sure.
What are some of the most common ways to manage fatigue?
I think over the last decade, maybe even longer than that, organizations have been really focusing on their most important asset. That's their people. And one of the things is not only worker and health safety on the job, it's worker and safety health off the job. So you hear about the total worker health programs. You hear about wellness, focuses on diet, exercise, sleep, mental wellness, things of that nature to really take a look at it. And this takes a team approach for an organization. It's not just a safety related issue, it's a management related issue as well as HR. And regardless of the size of your organization, is really investing in your teammates with proper health. Talking about sleeping and really putting it on the table. We lose a lot of workers on the job, unfortunately, in construction, about 1,000 a year, which is 1,000 too many. But how many of these folks do we lose off the job? Driving, fatigued, or at home, fatigued and doing things that they may not be focused on. So there's a lot of advantages for organization to really take a look at the total worker health. And you're also hearing about the culture of care, which is really caring about your employees, listening to your employees, investing in your employees. And a lot of it is sometimes it's education. Some people don't know. Uh, you know, the diet of sometimes construction workers could be I'm stopping by a convenience store, or there's something that's fast and I could throw in the microwave, and maybe that's not the best thing as well. So really, it's a 360 approach when you're coming to take a look at fatigue. Diet, exercise, proper rest. Those all. Should I be eating a ho ho or a sugar filled cake? Some people might love them. Or should I have a piece of fruit or some vegetables or something like that? So, education goes a long way, as well as, even offering some of these things, as educational tools and resources as well.
Carl, we're curious, what role is technology currently playing, and how does that impact the future of construction work when it comes to things like wearable sensors and other tools?
It's funny you say that, because I can tell you that you're seeing a lot of technology starting to step into this area. Let's just focus on driving itself. You're seeing technology out there now that is watching drivers' eyes, that if they start to shift or they stare too long or drift off, they're starting to give verbal alerts, things of that nature. So they're watching what the eyes do. I can still be standing, but I may be, falling asleep. So, what is the reaction time? What's your eyes doing? Things of that nature. That's already in play. And we can thank, in many cases, a lot of times our government that is doing research on a number of things, for everything from space to military. And now that's transitioning over into the public side. But technology is going to take a great step forward in helping organizations with fatigue management. Everybody seems to have some sort of iWatch or monitor checking heart rates, things of that nature. Why is somebody at a very calm level when they're working or supposed to be working hard? Are they tired? Are they fatigued? What's going on? So I think that sensors are out there, and they're being added to the portfolio that's being offered to not only the construction industry, many industries each and every day. But I think one of the first places that we've really seen that step into is the cognitive activities of drivers, and seeing how drivers are reacting with the fatigue, and it's a big issue. And you take a look at train operators that every so often they're going to have to touch a button in a certain sequence to ensure that they're still mentally and physically capable of going on. So it is a big issue. We're also seeing some technology in cognitive tests before people work. It's been introduced over the last 5-6 years. We're starting to see some more adaption. So if I go to work, I do a test every morning. It's a very short, color code, or you see a word or something like that, just to see what your reaction time is, to see if you're on cue. Many athletic teams do this as well, and really trying to see the really mental acuity of your teammates before you go into an activity. So again, that's another technology that's out there. And again, as technology is continually being brought upon us each and every day, things are moving quickly. You will see it from the equipment manufacturers to like equipment that stops almost immediately if somebody's in the wrong area, or they're not performing the way that machine should be, or they're over moving on a piece of equipment or in the wrong place. It will automatic release. So we're getting smart equipment. We are getting it at small and large levels. We're seeing the use of really, again, technology that is taking a look at reaction times, may it be the eyes as well as the hands and thought processes on activity. So yeah, it's exciting. The big thing that I would caution everybody else out in the industry is put a team together when you're taking a look at any of these new technologies. I may think it's great, but a carpenter or a laborer or a superintendent may think it's not. So anytime with new technology, I just suggest that people bring together a team, a variety of the group, to take a look and see how it's going to affect their jobs and activities and the end use of it.
Finally, for our listeners who want to learn more about the impacts of fatigue, what resources would you recommend?
The National Safety Council was truly a leader in working with some medical folks on the fatigue area, and it is still some information that I would tell you to take a look out there. The National Safety Council has not only a number of articles. For instance, I was reading in my research here that more than 16% of the fatal crashes involve drowsy drivers. I mean, if we ask everybody on the podcast here how many people have ever been tired driving, I think it would be an overwhelming percentage that they were. But there's also fatigue reports. There's a number of things that are on there that you could take a look. There's also some resources in there of really. I would encourage people to start here. There's a number of resources out there, but the National Safety Council, what you can do to prevent fatigue is some excellent resources. There's a cost calculator in there. There's some research talks about what the physiological happens with fatigue. Talk to your doctor, talk to your medical providers. You're seeing more and more folks out there that are learning more about this. It's becoming important because they're seeing issues. So let's take a look at some resources beyond the National Safety Council. Certainly talk with your insurance company, whatever company you're in. You can also talk to your personal insurance companies. May not get as many miles there, but certainly they're seeing resources, and they're spending time and resources in there. Work with your insurance broker. Talk with your medical providers. Talk with your associations. May you be in the construction industry, AGC, or you talk with your labor representatives from the laborers or the carpenters. More and more folks are taking a look at it because, again, if we go back to the most important thing, our workers Um, we cannot do work without them. And taking a look at their safety and health on the job as well as off the job, one of those overall total worker health scenarios is fatigue. Um, the call could not be at a better time. We just went through spring forward. This always, the time change in the United States always creates opportunity, and it kind of seems like an uptick in accidents, near misses, and scenarios where it's thrown off your circadian rhythm and your body clock, even though that's only an hour, could create all kinds of different issues. So, yeah, there's some great resources. I would tell everybody again, start with the National Safety Council, what you can do to prevent fatigue. Certainly provide you with some stuff to start your program out. And then the deeper you need to dig in there, there's a bunch of resources out there that are probably folks that you deal with that you just haven't asked.
Well, Carl, we're really grateful to be able to spend some time with you and talk about this important topic. Thanks so much for joining us on the safe side.
Well, it's been a pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you very much, and have a great spring.
April showers bring May flowers, the saying goes. But what happens when the Safety and Health editorial team helps make it rain occupational safety news all year long? You have an In Case You Missed It segment on your monthly podcast, that's what. I'll start. Wanted just to shed some light on a little bit of news out of the transportation sector. And it was a study from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety showing that some of the high visibility reflective clothing that you would see among workers or even pedestrians may present a quote unquote blind spot for some vehicles, pedestrian sensing automatic emergency braking technology or AEB technology, which I know is something we write about intermittently, mostly with commercial motor vehicles and such. It was pretty fascinating just that it's all spelled out, but the researchers had looked at the AEB performance on three 2023 vehicle models and did various dressings of test dummies with clothing and how they were stationed and things in a crosswalk. And it was designed to use the sensor technology and automatically engage the brakes and to prevent collisions, which obviously we know is the goal of this technology. And again, in addition to adjusting the dummies, they adjusted the speeds and the lux of illumination and such. But more or less what they found was two of the vehicles struck the dummy on most of the test runs. And not to be glib about it, but that obviously is not something that you want. So I know, again, we write about a lot of this technology, more or less the fact that it's coming out and what industry groups think about it. But this was pretty interesting just to read about how it essentially failed in so many test runs of these models. So something just to be cognizant of, especially as I know this is something that this industry is working on, really on a daily basis. So, Alan, how about you? What stood out to you?
Well, many of you out there probably already know this, but just in case you missed it, we have a Secretary of Labor. Lori Chavez DeRemer was confirmed, and it's likely by the time that this episode comes out, we'll have a Deputy Secretary of Labor as well. We'll see in terms of if we'll have an OSHA leader in place, again, by the time this episode comes out. Probably not likely, but you never know. Dave Keeling is the nominee. And the same goes for the Mine Safety and Health Administration, whose nominee is Wayne Palmer. Barry, what about you?
Well, Alan, I wanted to share a little bit of research coming from the team at NSC, our colleagues at the MSD Solutions Lab. They recently came out with a new resource about preventing MSDs, and it's called The Importance of Musculoskeletal Disorder and Related Injury Surveillance and Organizational Approach. And what this resource is it talks about how private sector businesses who spend $18 billion a year on costs related to MSDs can try to help prevent them using injury surveillance. This new resource drew from over 50 different academic sources, and it put together some practical guidance for employers, for safety and health pros out there. And some of the key features I wanted to share of the new resource is it discusses standardized record keeping. It also talks about system implementation and some best practices to design and maintain effective injury surveillance frameworks. There's a discussion of technology integration, of course, such as workplace monitoring, early intervention, and then some practical considerations for implementing those technologies. And finally, there are some real world applications in this new resource, and there are interactive exercises and use cases that are going to help organizations effectively implement some strategies in their workplaces. And obviously, our audience is no stranger to the impact of MSDs.
Well, thank you guys for a great discussion as always. Is there something that you want to make sure we didn't miss? Please email us at safehealth@nsc.org.
Thank you so much for joining us for this month's episode of On the Safe Side. We know your time is valuable and we appreciate you spending some of it with us, wherever you're listening. We encourage you to visit our website, safetyandhealthmagazine.com/podcast, to check out any of our past episodes. That includes episode 41 from July 2023, which featured an interview on trenching and excavation hazards. Also, check out the March episode for our interview with Spring Safety Conference keynote speaker Jason Coons. A special thank you goes out to this month's sponsor, Miller Fall Protection. The original music for this podcast was composed by Steve Maslin. Thank you so much, Steve. And a big thank you to all of our NSC colleagues behind the scenes who make this podcast go. We'll be back next month to have more safety-related discussions, talk to trusted voices from around the profession, and hopefully make you smile a little. In the meantime, please stay on the safe side.